Most people think camping is about quiet nights, fresh air, and getting away from everything. But once the sun goes down, and you're miles away from the nearest road, the woods stop feeling peaceful. Tonight, you're about to hear 3 allegedly true camping horror stories told by the people who experienced them firsthand. No monsters, no jump scares, just the kind of fear that comes from being alone in the dark and realizing you're not as alone as you thought. I've been camping my whole life, so when people tell me they're scared of the woods at night, I usually brush it off. Trees make noise, animals move around. Your brain fills in gaps when it's dark. That's what I always believed. That belief didn't survive this trip. There were 5 of us, me, my friend Josh, his girlfriend Emily, and 2 others from work, Ryan and Cole. We drove out late Friday afternoon to a remote campground tucked deep into the forest. No facilities, no staff, just a small clearing with fire pits that people had clearly been using for years. The kind of place you only find if someone tells you about it. There was no signal the moment we turned off the main road. At first, everything felt perfect. We set up the tents while there was still light, cracked open a few beers, and started a fire as the sun dropped behind the trees. The woods were quiet in that peaceful way you only get far from civilization. No traffic, no distant hum, just wind through leaves and the occasional bird settling in for the night. It wasn't until full darkness hit that things began to feel off. I noticed it first when I went to grab more wood. As I stepped just beyond the firelight, the forest felt thicker than it had earlier, like the darkness was heavier somehow. Sounds seemed muted, almost dampened. I shook it off and dragged a few fallen branches back to the pit. Josh was laughing about something when I returned, but his voice sounded oddly loud, like it didn't belong out there. Around midnight, Emily mentioned she felt like we were being watched. We all laughed it off. That's a classic camping feeling. The paranoia that creeps in when your brain has nothing else to focus on. But then Ryan said something that made everyone quiet. He said, "No, I kind of feel it too." We went silent, listening. At first, there was nothing. Then, from somewhere deep in the woods, we heard slow footsteps, not rustling, not scurrying. Heavy, deliberate steps, crunching leaves at a steady pace. Josh called out, assuming it was another camper. No response. The footsteps stopped. A few seconds later, they started again. Closer this time. Cole stood up, shining his torch into the trees, sweeping back and forth. The beam caught nothing but trunks and shadows. Whatever it was, stayed just beyond the light. Then we heard breathing. Low, slow, controlled. It wasn't panicked or animalistic. It sounded patient. That's when fear properly set in. Josh shouted again, louder this time, telling whoever it was to show themselves. The breathing stopped instantly. So did the footsteps. We waited. No one spoke. The fire crackled unnaturally loud in the silence. After what felt like a full minute, we heard movement again. But this time it wasn't approaching. It was circling us. The sound moved from left to right, staying just outside the firelight, never stepping into view. Every so often it would stop, then continue from a different angle, like it was mapping us. Emily started crying quietly. Ryan kept whispering that it had to be a bear, but I'd grown up around wildlife. And bears don't move like that. They don't pace. They don't circle. And they definitely don't do what happened next. From somewhere in the darkness, we heard a voice. It sounded like Josh. Same tone, same cadence. It said, "Guys?" Josh froze. He was standing right next to me. The voice repeated it, closer now. "Guys?" No one answered. My entire body felt cold, like my blood had dropped out of me. Then the voice tried again, this time saying my name. Perfectly. That's when we ran. We didn't pack. We didn't put the fire out. We grabbed keys and phones and bolted toward the cars, tripping over roots and gear in the dark. Behind us, something crashed through the undergrowth, fast now, no longer careful. We piled into the car and tore down the dirt road, branches scraping the sides as we flew through the forest. None of us spoke until we hit the main road. The next morning, Josh checked his phone. He had a voicemail time-stamped from 12:47 a.m. It was his own voice, breathing heavily, whispering, "Guys." I haven't been camping since. This happened during a solo camping trip I took last autumn. I'd driven out to a forest reserve I'd visited years earlier, planning a quiet overnight stay before hiking the next morning. It was remote, but not unheard of. The kind of place that made you feel alone without actually being dangerous. At least, that's what I thought. I arrived just before sunset and set up my tent near the edge of a small clearing. The air was cold, already biting, and the woods felt still in that unnatural way they sometimes do when weather's about to turn. No wind, no insects, just silence. By the time darkness fully settled, the temperature had dropped sharply. I zipped myself into my sleeping bag, listening to the occasional snap of branches somewhere off in the trees. Normal forest sounds. I told myself that over and over. Sometime after midnight, I woke up to footsteps. They weren't close, maybe 30 or 40 feet away, but they were slow and steady. Whoever it was wasn't stumbling or wandering. They walked with purpose. I sat up, heart pounding, and called out, assuming it was another camper who'd gotten lost. No answer. The footsteps stopped. Then I heard fabric move, like clothing brushing against itself. A shadow passed over the thin wall of my tent, blocking out the faint moonlight for just a second. Whoever was out there stood still, close enough that I could hear their breathing. It wasn't rushed. It wasn't nervous. It sounded curious. I stayed frozen, barely breathing, hoping they'd leave. Minutes passed. My legs cramped. My hands went numb from gripping my torch. Then the shadow moved again, slowly backing away. I didn't sleep after that. At first light, I packed up as fast as I could. As I was rolling my tent, I noticed footprints circling where I'd been sleeping. Not animal tracks. Human boots. They stopped just inches from my tent door. There were no other cars in the lot when I left. I still don't camp alone anymore. I used to take my dog, Rex, camping with me whenever I could. He was a big mixed breed, calm, alert, and normally fearless. If Rex was relaxed, I felt safe. If he wasn't, I trusted his instincts more than my own. This trip was meant to be simple. One night, a small campsite near an old logging trail, far enough off the main road that there'd be no noise or people. I arrived late afternoon, set up camp, and let Rex roam nearby while I got a fire going. Almost immediately, I noticed how quiet it was. Rex stayed close to me, pacing in slow circles, stopping every few minutes to stare into the trees. His ears were stiff, his tail low. I assumed it was the unfamiliar smells of deer, foxes, maybe coyotes. Nothing unusual for the area. As the sun dipped lower, Rex suddenly froze and growled. I followed his line of sight and saw something pale near the tree line. At first, I thought it was a fallen branch or a piece of trash. When I walked closer, my stomach dropped. It was a deer carcass, or what was left of it. The body had been torn open, but not eaten properly, meat stripped in places, untouched in others. The head was gone entirely. What unsettled me most was how clean parts of it looked, like something had taken its time. I pulled Rex back toward camp and tried to shake it off. Predators do this sometimes, I told myself. Still, I kept the fire going higher than usual and made sure Rex stayed leashed. Night came fast. Around midnight, Rex jolted awake, barking sharply into the darkness. I snapped upright, heart racing. His body was rigid, eyes locked on something beyond the firelight. Then I heard it. Movement, not rushing, not stalking, just slow, deliberate steps, crunching through leaves, circling, always just outside the glow of the fire. I yelled, hoping to scare whatever it was away. The footsteps stopped. A moment later, something heavy shifted in the woods. I caught a glimpse of movement between the trees, tall, upright, and gone too quickly to focus on. Bear whined softly, pressing against my leg. At first light, I packed up without eating or resting. As I loaded my car, I noticed something near the edge of camp I hadn't seen before. More remains. Smaller animals this time. Scattered bones. Fur, arranged, not randomly, like they'd been placed there. I left immediately. Rex refused to look back toward the woods as we drove away. I never went back to that campsite, and Rex, who used to love the outdoors, never slept peacefully in a tent again. Neither did I. If you're still here, that means you made it through the night. If you want more stories like these, the ones that don't rely on cheap jump scares, but stay with you long after the video ends, make sure you subscribe. I upload new horror stories every week. One of my other videos is on screen right now. It's another collection of stories people swear really happened. Click it, and I'll see you there.